domestic dispute in Philadelphia's Rhawnhurst neighborhood that ended with an 18-year-old pregnant woman's death. Officers responded to an apartment complex along Langdon Street this past Monday. Investigators say the dispute all started over the family pet. Action News reporter Amanda Pitts spoke with a 19-year-old.
She was 18 years old, pregnant, and had her whole life ahead of her. She had a 4-year-old at home who needed her, a baby growing inside her, and a mother who loved her deeply. And on a regular Monday afternoon in her own neighborhood, in what should have been just another day, she was shot and killed by the man who was supposed to love her, the man she had been with for years, the man her family says had been hurting her long before that gun went off. This is the story of Lemmarra Bradshaw, and I need you to hear every single detail of this one. Before we get into it, if you are new here, welcome to Shadow Crime. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel, and click that bell icon so you never miss a video. We cover real cases, real victims, and real stories that deserve to be heard. Now let's get into it. Lemmarra Bradshaw was a young woman from the Rhawnhurst section of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 18 years old, already a mother to a 4-year-old, and pregnant with her second child. By all accounts from her family, she was the kind of person who was deeply loved by the people around her. Her mother, Michelle Adekla, described her as something special, not just a daughter, but a piece of her soul. And when you hear how Michelle talks about Lemmarra, you understand very quickly that this woman was not just a statistic. She was somebody's entire world. Now, Robert Tatum was 29 years old. He and Lemmarra had been in a relationship for several years. So this wasn't some short situationship or a new romance that went wrong. This was a man who had been in her life for a long time, long enough to know her, long enough to know her family, long enough to know she was carrying his child, and according to Lemmarra's family, long enough to start showing his true colors behind closed doors. Because here is something that the initial headlines about a hamster didn't tell you. This relationship had already turned violent before March 9th ever came around. About 2 weeks before Lemmarra was killed, Tatum had punched her in the face. Her aunt spoke about it publicly and said that despite that, Lemmarra went back to him in less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours after being physically assaulted by this man, she returned to him. And her aunt didn't say that to shame Lemmarra. She said it to explain what kind of hold this man had over her. He manipulated her, the aunt said. He's always in a jealous rage. That is the part of the story that hits different, because Lemmarra wasn't weak. She was trapped, and there's a very big difference between those two things. So let's talk about March 9th, 2026. A Monday, around 5 in the afternoon. Lemmarra was on the 7,000 block of Langdon Street in Rhawnhurst, Philadelphia, a neighborhood, a residential street, the kind of place where people are just living their lives, going about their day. And somewhere in that space, an argument broke out between Lemmarra and Robert Tatum. Now here is where it gets interesting, because the way the story first hit the news, you would have thought the whole thing started over a pet. And technically, the surface-level trigger was a hamster that Lemmarra's mother Michelle had bought for her just days before the previous Saturday. That detail alone had people on the internet losing their minds when the story broke. Because how do you even begin to process that? A pregnant woman, a mother, killed over a hamster argument? But stay with me, because that is not the full picture. Lemmarra's aunt came forward and made it very clear that the hamster was not what this was really about. The real issue, according to the family, was that Tatum had been cheating. He had been unfaithful, and Lemmarra knew about it. And if you knew Lemmarra, apparently you knew she was not the type to just sit down and accept that quietly. Her aunt described her as someone who would look a man dead in the eye and say, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it too. She was not afraid to speak her truth. She was not afraid to confront what was happening in her relationship. And that right there is what I want you to sit with for a second. Because think about this. This young woman was pregnant. She already had a 4-year-old at home. She had already been punched in the face by this man 2 weeks prior. And yet she still found the strength to confront him about cheating. That tells you something about who Lemmarra was. She was not someone who was going to be silenced. She was going to speak up even when it was uncomfortable, even when it was dangerous. And on that Monday afternoon, Speaking up cost her everything. Tatum shot her during that argument. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, but she did not survive. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. And with her went her unborn child. 2 lives gone in one moment on a regular Monday afternoon in Philadelphia. Now, Tatum was taken into custody. And when investigators started asking questions, here is what he said. He claimed that during the argument, Lemmarra came at him with a knife and a screwdriver. And that is when he shot her. That was his defense. That a pregnant 18-year-old, a woman he had been with for years, came at him armed, and he had no choice. I want you to think about that claim very carefully. And I want you to remember what her aunt said about who Lemmarra was. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think so far. Does that defense hold up to you? Because we are not done yet.
The domestic dispute in Philadelphia's Rhawnhurst neighborhood that ended with an 18-year-old pregnant woman's death. Officers responded to an apartment complex along Langdon Street this past Monday. Investigators say the dispute all started over the family pet. Action News reporter Amanda Pitts spoke with the victim's family today, and she joins us live from Rhawnhurst with the latest. Amanda.
Yeah, Christy, Lemmarra Bradshaw was just 18 years old and pregnant at the time that she was killed. We spoke with her grieving mother and aunt today, who said she was a victim of domestic abuse.
My whole world is shattered right now.
It's been 4 days since Michelle Adecola's life forever changed. Lemmarra Bradshaw, known as Myra, her only daughter, was shot and killed Monday night, allegedly at the hands of her boyfriend.
She was carrying your baby. You should have more sympathy towards her. I don't understand that.
The family, not wanting to show their faces amid their grief, say the 18-year-old was pregnant with her second child when she was killed. Police say it happened on the 7000 block of Langdon Street in the Rhawnhurst section of Philadelphia. Police have charged 29-year-old Robert Tatum with voluntary manslaughter.
You tore my heart in pieces. You took something special away from me.
Investigators told Action News on Monday the shots were fired during an argument over a hamster, one that Adecola bought for her daughter last Saturday. But Bradshaw's aunt says the fight was over Tatum's infidelity.
He was cheating on her, and Myra is the kind of person she'll say, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it too. He's always in a jealous rage.
Sources tell Action News that Tatum claimed Bradshaw came at him with a knife and screwdriver, and that's when he shot her. The family says he'd been violent with her in the past.
He punched her in her face like 2 weeks ago, and in less than 24 hours, Myra went back to him. He manipulated her.
The family is hopeful they'll get justice, but say they'll never feel closure.
I feel like I didn't protect her enough to let this man kill my daughter, and I wasn't there to help her. It makes me feel broken inside.
She's like an angel. She's irreplaceable.
Now again, Tatum is in custody. He's facing 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter. As for Bradshaw, she leaves behind a 4-year-old child. Live in Rhawnhurst tonight, Amanda Pitts, Channel 6 Action News. Christy?
Yeah, a lot to process there for that family. Amanda, thank you.
Now here is where the legal side of this case starts to raise some serious eyebrows. Robert Tatum was charged with voluntary manslaughter, not murder, voluntary manslaughter. And I need you to understand what that distinction actually means, because it matters a lot in this case. Voluntary manslaughter in Pennsylvania is typically applied when someone kills another person in the heat of passion, or when they genuinely believe they needed to defend themselves, even if that belief turns out to be unreasonable. So by charging Tatum with voluntary manslaughter instead of murder, prosecutors are essentially leaving the door open for his self-defense story to carry some weight in court. And that is something Lemmarra's family has to live with every single day while they grieve her. Now let that sink in. This man had already put his hands on her 2 weeks before. He had a history of jealous rages, according to her own family. She was pregnant with his child, and the charge on the table is voluntary manslaughter, not murder. I am not saying the legal process is wrong, because we have to let it play out. But I am saying that if you are a member of Lemmarra's family right now, that charge feels like a second wound. And speaking of her family, I want to bring you back to her mother, Michelle Adecola, for a moment, because Michelle did not just lose a daughter. She told reporters that Lemmarra is the 3rd child she has had to bury in recent years. The 3rd. I want you to imagine carrying that kind of grief. Most people cannot even survive burying 1 child. Michelle has now buried 3. And in her own words, she said she feels broken inside. She said she feels like she did not protect her daughter enough. She blamed herself for not stopping something that was never her fault to begin with. That is what domestic violence does to entire families. It does not just destroy the victim. It reaches into every person who loved that victim and leaves a mark that never fully heals. And this is a part of the story where I need you to really engage with me, because there are some deeper questions here that go beyond just what happened on Langdon Street that Monday afternoon. Why is it that so many young women in situations like Lemmarra's find it nearly impossible to leave? We know she went back to Tatum less than 24 hours after he punched her. And before anyone rushes to judge that decision, understand that leaving an abusive relationship is statistically one of the most dangerous things a victim can do. The moment they try to walk away is often the moment the violence escalates. So, sometimes staying feels like survival, and sometimes, tragically, staying ends exactly like this. Why did it take a death of the public to pay attention to what this family was already seeing happening in real time? Her aunt knew, her mother knew, the warning signs were there. The punch 2 weeks before was a warning sign. The jealous rages were a warning sign. The manipulation was a warning sign. So what does it take for the people around a victim to intervene before it is too late? And what does it take for a system to step in before a pregnant 18-year-old ends up on the evening news? And then there is a question of that charge. Voluntary manslaughter for shooting a pregnant woman during an argument about infidelity after a documented history of physical abuse. Is that charge enough? Does it reflect the full weight of what was taken from Lemmarra, from her unborn child, from her 4-year-old who is now growing up without a mother, and from Michelle who has now buried 3 of her children? Those are the questions I want you to carry with you after this video. Because true crime is not just about the facts of what happened. It is about understanding why it happened, and what we do with that knowledge going forward. Lemmarra Bradshaw deserved better. Her children deserve better. Her mother deserved better. And the least we can do right now is make sure her name is not forgotten. If this video moved you, hit that like button right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel reach more people who need to hear these stories. Subscribe to Shadow Crime if you have not already, and click that bell icon so you're notified every single time we drop a new case. Leave a comment below and tell me your thoughts on this one. Do you think the voluntary manslaughter charge is enough? Do you think justice will actually be served for Lemmarra? I read every single comment, and I want to hear from you. Rest in peace, Lemmarra Bradshaw. And to her family, we see you.